Tom adjusted his flashlight and sighed, beginning his nightly rounds at the abandoned amusement park. The eerie silence of the park was unsettling, with rusted rides and overgrown paths giving it an otherworldly feel. As he walked past the darkened carousel, he suddenly heard the faint sound of music. The familiar tune of the carousel's melody played softly, though he knew the power had been shut off for years. He shined his flashlight towards the carousel, expecting to see nothing. To his shock, the carousel was slowly rotating, the painted horses moving up and down in a ghostly rhythm. Tom's heart raced as he cautiously approached, the music growing louder with each step. Shadows danced in the flickering light, creating an atmosphere of intense unease. Tom called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" but received no response. The carousel continued its eerie dance, the figures on the ride appearing almost alive in the dim light. He reached out to touch one of the horses, and the music abruptly stopped, plunging the park back into silence. The carousel came to a grinding halt, and Tom's breath caught in his throat. He took a step back, feeling a chill run down his spine. Something wasn't right. Gathering his courage, he turned to leave, but the unsettling feeling of being watched lingered. Tom decided to check the security footage to see if he could catch a glimpse of what caused the carousel to move. As he walked away, the music began playing again softly, as if bidding him to stay. Tom hurried back to the security office, his mind racing. He pulled up the footage from the carousel, expecting to see something, anything, that could explain what he had just witnessed. But the screen showed nothing unusual. The carousel stood still, bathed in darkness. There was no sign of movement, no hint of the eerie music that had filled the night air. Frustrated and unnerved, Tom replayed the footage multiple times, scrutinizing every frame. Suddenly, a flicker caught his eye. He paused the video and zoomed in. There, in the corner of the frame, he saw a faint, ghostly figure, a little girl, dressed in an old-fashioned dress, standing by the carousel. His heart pounded as he watched the girl step onto the ride and disappear. Tom rubbed his eyes, unable to believe what he was seeing. Determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, he grabbed his flashlight and headed back to the carousel. As he approached, the music began again, but this time it was softer, almost inviting. The carousel was motionless, but Tom could feel a presence around him. He called out, "Who's there?" The only response was the whisper of the wind and the creaking of the old ride. He stepped closer, and the temperature dropped sharply. Goosebumps prickled his skin as he felt a cold hand brush against his arm. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. Tom's breath was visible in the cold air, his heart pounding as he stood alone by the carousel. He knew he had to find out more about the little girl. Back in the security office, he searched through old records and found a newspaper clipping from decades ago. The headline read, "Tragic accident at local amusement park claims young life." The article detailed the story of Emily, a young girl who had died in a freak accident on the very carousel Tom now patrolled. She had been riding when something went terribly wrong, and she was thrown from her horse, resulting in fatal injuries. The park had been closed for renovations shortly after, never reopening. Tom felt a wave of sadness wash over him. He understood now that Emily's spirit was still tied to the carousel, seeking some form of closure. As he pieced together the story, the lights in the security office flickered. He looked up, feeling the cold presence again. Emily's ghost was there, watching him. Objects began to move around the room, papers fluttering, a chair sliding. The tension in the air grew thick. Tom felt a chill on his neck, like icy fingers grazing his skin. Emily's ghost seemed desperate to communicate, her sorrow and confusion palpable. Tom knew he had to find a way to help her. He whispered, "Emily, I'm here to help you. Show me what you need." The room fell silent as Tom's words hung in the air. The cold presence seemed to intensify, and Tom felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. He followed the unseen force, which led him back to the carousel. The air grew colder with each step, and he could hear the faint sound of a girl's laughter mixed with sobs. Tom arrived at the carousel, and the music started again, but this time it was slower, more mournful. The little girl's ghost reappeared, standing beside a horse. She looked at Tom with pleading eyes before pointing towards the base of the carousel. Tom knelt down and noticed a small hidden compartment. With trembling hands, he opened it to reveal a collection of dusty old belongings, Emily's cherished items, including a teddy bear and a locket with her picture. A wave of emotion washed over Tom as he realized these were the remnants of Emily's short life, lost and forgotten. The ghostly figure of Emily stood beside him, her expression softening as she saw her treasures. Tom gently took the locket and said, "Emily, I will make sure you are remembered." The ghost's form shimmered, and for a brief moment, Tom felt a warm presence. The carousel's music changed to a gentle, comforting tune. Emily's spirit seemed to smile before slowly fading away. The atmosphere lightened, and Tom felt a sense of peace. Tom stood up, holding the locket tightly. The air around him felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. He walked away from the carousel, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. He knew Emily's spirit had found some peace, but the haunting experience had left its mark on him. As he headed toward the park's exit, Tom felt an invisible force blocking his path. He turned and saw Emily's ghost one last time. She appeared more at ease, but her eyes still conveyed a message. Tom realized there was one last thing she needed. He returned to the hidden room beneath the carousel, where he found old documents and maintenance logs. Among them was a letter from Emily's parents, addressed to the park management, pleading for a memorial in her honor. The request had been ignored, buried in the park's archives. Determined to fulfill Emily's final wish, Tom took the letter and the locket to the park's current management. He explained everything that had happened, showing them the evidence. Moved by his story, they agreed to install a small memorial near the carousel to honor Emily's memory. A few weeks later, the memorial was erected, a plaque with Emily's name and a picture from the locket. The carousel was restored to its former glory, and the music played once more, but this time it was a joyous tune. Tom visited often, feeling a connection to the little girl he had helped. The disturbances ceased, and the park felt peaceful again. Tom knew Emily had finally found the closure she needed, and in helping her, he had found a sense of purpose. Lisa adjusted her cleaning cart, the creaky wheels echoing through the empty amusement park. As the night janitor, she was used to the eerie silence, but tonight felt different. She approached the funhouse, its twisted mirrors and dusty props casting strange reflections in the moonlight. Suddenly, she heard faint laughter and hurried footsteps from within. Curiosity piqued, Lisa stepped inside, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The mirrors distorted her reflection, making her feel uneasy. She called out, "Is someone there?" but received no answer. The laughter echoed again, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. As she ventured deeper, the air grew colder. Lisa saw a figure dart past in her peripheral vision. She spun around, but no one was there. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Heart pounding, she continued, determined to find the source of the sounds. Suddenly, one of the mirrors showed not her reflection, but that of a woman dressed in a vintage costume. The figure seemed to move independently of Lisa, smiling and waving before disappearing. The mirror shattered, and Lisa stumbled back, her mind racing with fear and confusion. The funhouse was silent again, but the oppressive feeling of being watched remained. She knew something was terribly wrong. Gathering her courage, Lisa decided to dig deeper into the funhouse's history, hoping to uncover the truth behind the haunting. As she turned to leave, she heard the laughter again, closer this time, sending chills down her spine. Lisa hurried out of the funhouse, her heart racing. She needed answers. Back in the security office, she accessed old records and found a faded journal hidden in a drawer. It belonged to a performer named Evelyn, who had worked in the funhouse decades ago. The journal detailed Evelyn's life, her love for performing, and a tragic accident that had claimed her life. Evelyn had died during a performance, trapped in one of the funhouse's illusions when a fire broke out. Lisa read on, feeling a deep sadness for the young woman whose dreams had been cut short. She knew Evelyn's spirit was still tethered to the funhouse, seeking closure. Determined to help, Lisa returned to the funhouse with the journal. As she stepped inside, the mirrors reflected not her, but scenes from Evelyn's life. She saw Evelyn performing, laughing, and then the tragic fire. The funhouse seemed to come alive, the walls warping and twisting as if reacting to Lisa's presence. Lisa felt a cold breeze and saw Evelyn's ghostly figure in one of the mirrors. Evelyn seemed to beckon her, leading her deeper into the funhouse. The oppressive feeling of being watched intensified, but Lisa pushed on, determined to help Evelyn find peace. She reached a room filled with old, dusty props and found a hidden compartment containing Evelyn's cherished belongings. Lisa whispered, "Evelyn, I'm here to help." The air grew colder, and the mirrors showed scenes of Evelyn's tragic end, pleading for resolution. Lisa's hands trembled as she opened the hidden compartment. Inside, she found a dusty photograph of Evelyn, her radiant smile captured in a happier time. Next to it was a locket with a picture of Evelyn and a young man, presumably her lover. Lisa felt a pang of sorrow for the lost life and unfulfilled love. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she saw Evelyn's ghost, her eyes filled with sadness and longing. Evelyn pointed to the photograph, then to the funhouse walls, which began to shift and reveal scenes from her life and death. Lisa watched as the tragic story unfolded. Evelyn's lover had been the one to try and save her during the fire, but had perished as well. Their spirits were bound to the funhouse, trapped in a cycle of pain and loss. Lisa understood now that she needed to reunite their belongings to help set their spirits free. Gathering the photograph and locket, Lisa made her way to the heart of the funhouse, where the fire had started. The atmosphere grew heavier, and the sounds of past laughter and screams echoed around her. She placed the items on a small makeshift altar she had created from old props. As she did, the air grew warmer, and a soft light enveloped the room. Evelyn's ghost appeared beside her lover, their expression softening. They looked at Lisa with gratitude before fading away, leaving the funhouse in peaceful silence. With Evelyn and her lover's spirits seemingly at peace, Lisa felt a sense of accomplishment. However, the funhouse itself still felt off, as if it held more secrets. As she turned to leave, the mirrors once again began to warp, reflecting not just her, but also shadowy figures lurking in the background. Determined to finish what she had started, Lisa ventured deeper into the funhouse. She reached a corridor she had never seen before. The walls were lined with mirrors that showed distorted and unsettling images of her past, present, and possible future. Each step she took seemed to echo louder, amplifying her growing sense of unease. At the end of the corridor, she found a small, dusty room filled with old costumes and props. In the corner, there was a large mirror covered with a thick, tattered cloth. Lisa felt compelled to uncover it. As she pulled the cloth away, she saw not her reflection, but a scene from the night of the fire. Evelyn and her lover were trapped, their frantic efforts to escape reflected in the mirror's glass. Suddenly, the mirror began to crack, and the scene shifted to show a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Lisa quickly moved to the indicated spot, prying open the floorboards to reveal a small box. Inside were letters, photographs, and a ring, mementos of Evelyn and her lover's life together. Lisa understood these items were the final key to freeing their spirits completely. She carefully placed the box on the altar with the other belongings, feeling the air lighten around her. As Lisa placed the box on the makeshift altar, the air around her grew warm, and a soft, glowing light filled the room. The mirrors that had once shown disturbing images now reflected scenes of happiness from Evelyn and her lover's life. Lisa watched as the ghosts of Evelyn and her lover appeared, holding hands and smiling gratefully. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and closure. The ghostly couple nodded at Lisa, their expressions full of gratitude. Slowly, they faded away, leaving behind a feeling of serenity. The funhouse, once a place of fear and sorrow, seemed to transform. The mirrors stopped warping, and the cold drafts disappeared. Lisa took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the spirit's presence lift. She knew she had done something important, bringing peace to souls that had been trapped for so long. As she exited the funhouse, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She returned to the security office and documented everything she had found, ensuring that Evelyn and her lover's story would not be forgotten. The amusement park's management agreed to create a small memorial in the funhouse, honoring the tragic love story that had haunted its halls for decades. Lisa felt a sense of accomplishment as she left the park. She knew the funhouse would no longer be a place of fear, but a tribute to the love and lives of Evelyn and her lover. She had helped them find peace, and in doing so, found a deeper meaning in her own life. Jack tightened his grip on his flashlight as he approached the towering Ferris wheel, its silhouette casting an eerie shadow in the moonlight. The amusement park had been abandoned for years, but Jack was responsible for its maintenance and security. Tonight, however, felt different. The air was thick with an unsettling presence. As he walked closer, Jack heard the creaking of metal and the soft groan of the Ferris wheel's gears. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the wheel slowly turning, even though it had been locked down and decommissioned. He scanned the area, but there was no sign of intruders. Determined to investigate, Jack climbed up to the control booth. The controls were untouched, but the wheel continued to move. He felt a cold breeze brush past him, and goosebumps prickled his skin. He peered out at the park from the elevated position, the view distorted by the night's darkness. Jack descended and began a thorough inspection of the wheel's base. As he walked around, he noticed a small, dusty diary wedged between the gears. He carefully pulled it out and flipped through the pages. The diary belonged to a maintenance worker named Peter, who had tragically died in an accident on the Ferris wheel years ago. Suddenly, Jack heard faint cries for help coming from the top of the wheel. His blood ran cold. Gritting his teeth, he started to climb the Ferris wheel, the cries growing louder with each step. Reaching the top, he found nothing but an old, rusted seat swaying in the breeze. The cries stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Jack's heart pounded as he stood at the top of the Ferris wheel, the old seat swaying gently in the breeze. He felt a cold presence around him, as if someone or something was watching. The cries for help had stopped, leaving an eerie silence that seemed to amplify his fear. He took a deep breath and began to climb down, determined to uncover the truth about Peter's tragic accident. Halfway down, he noticed a small, hidden compartment in the Ferris wheel structure. With some effort, he pried it open and found a bundle of old documents. Among them were maintenance logs and a letter from Peter addressed to his family. The letter revealed that Peter had been wrongfully blamed for negligence leading to the accident. He had tried to expose serious safety issues in the Ferris wheel, but his concerns were ignored by the management. The guilt and frustration had weighed heavily on him until the day he died. Jack felt a deep sense of injustice. He knew he had to clear Peter's name. As he reached the ground, the Ferris wheel began to turn again, this time faster. Jack heard the cries for help once more, but now they sounded desperate and urgent. Gathering his courage, Jack decided to search the maintenance shed for more clues. Inside, he found a dusty toolbox with Peter's initials and more incriminating documents. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, revealing a cover-up by the park's management. As he left the shed, the Ferris wheel's motion stopped abruptly, and Jack felt the cold presence again, stronger this time. He knew Peter's spirit was urging him to continue the investigation and clear his name. Jack stood outside the maintenance shed, clutching the incriminating documents. The cold presence around him intensified, and he felt a sense of urgency. He needed to find more evidence to clear Peter's name. As he walked back towards the Ferris wheel, the air grew colder, and the cries for help echoed once more. Determined, Jack approached the Ferris wheel's base where he had found Peter's diary. This time, he noticed a loose panel near the control booth. He pried it open and discovered a hidden compartment containing a set of blueprints. The blueprints detailed several safety flaws in the Ferris wheel's design, flaws that Peter had tried to report before the tragic accident. As Jack examined the blueprints, he felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. The Ferris wheel started to move again, its gears grinding loudly. Jack's heart raced as he realized Peter's spirit was becoming more desperate for justice. He decided to take the evidence to the park's current management, hoping they would finally acknowledge the truth. As he made his way to the office, the Ferris wheel's movement grew more erratic, the cries for help becoming frantic. In the office, Jack presented the documents and blueprints to the management. They were shocked and immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. They agreed to reopen the case and clear Peter's name, acknowledging the cover-up and safety flaws that had led to his death. Jack felt the cold presence fade, replaced by a sense of calm. He knew Peter's spirit was finally at peace. Jack left the office, feeling a sense of relief. The park's management had agreed to clear Peter's name and correct the safety flaws. However, the Ferris wheel still loomed in the distance, its eerie presence reminding Jack that his task wasn't fully complete. As he approached the Ferris wheel once more, the air grew cold again, and the cries for help resumed, softer this time, almost a whisper. Jack climbed up to the control booth, determined to make one last inspection. There, he found another letter, hidden beneath a loose floorboard. This one was addressed to Peter's wife, explaining the true extent of the negligence and his desperate attempts to fix it. Jack knew he had to deliver the letter to Peter's family. With the letter in hand, he felt a cold breeze guide him back down the Ferris wheel. As he reached the ground, he saw a faint, ghostly figure of Peter standing by the ride, his expression one of gratitude. Jack made his way to the address on the letter, a small house on the outskirts of town. He knocked on the door, and an elderly woman answered. Jack introduced himself and explained everything, handing her the letter. Tears welled up in her eyes as she read Peter's final words, finally knowing the truth. Returning to the park, Jack felt the air lighten. The Ferris wheel stood still, no longer haunted by cries or eerie movements. Peter's spirit had found peace, and the park felt serene once again. Jack knew his mission was complete, leaving the park with a renewed sense of purpose. As Jack left the elderly woman's house, he felt a sense of fulfillment. He had done his part to clear Peter's name and bring peace to his spirit. The next day, he returned to the amusement park, ready to ensure everything was in order. The Ferris wheel stood silently, no longer haunted by the restless ghost. Jack met with the park's management once more, and they discussed plans for a memorial dedicated to Peter. They decided to place it near the Ferris wheel, acknowledging his efforts and the tragedy that had occurred. The memorial would serve as a reminder of the importance of safety and the human cost of negligence. The park staff gathered for the small, heartfelt ceremony. As they unveiled the plaque honoring Peter, Jack felt a warm breeze, a stark contrast to the cold, eerie air he had experienced before. He looked up at the Ferris wheel, and for a brief moment, thought he saw Peter's figure nodding in approval before fading away. Life at the park slowly returned to normal, but the memory of Peter's story lingered. Jack continued his work, feeling a deeper connection to the park and its history. He often visited the memorial, leaving flowers and reflecting on the events that had transpired. The Ferris wheel became a symbol of both tragedy and redemption, its silent presence a reminder of the lives it had touched. Jack knew that the park was now a place of peace, where Peter's spirit could finally rest. With the Ferris wheel phantom laid to rest, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose in his work, knowing he had made a difference.